Thanks, Kevin, for joining me. Really pleased to have you here in the Shed office. Kevin Jackson is in the Shed. I wanted to have a chat about you, and I wanted to have a chat about poetry, and really whatever you want to talk about. I've got your lovely book here. So this is Love's Burn by Kevin Queever Jackson. Absolutely love the cover design. It's a thing of beauty, and we can talk a little bit about how we got to that stage. So I guess tell me then, what brought you to the Shed?
Well, nice to be here, Anne. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm just tuning into the fact that I have a lot more hair on my head than usual. This is the lockdown look, so it also is a little bit cross hippie, so that quite suits me, I think. What brought me to Big White Shed? Well, since moving up to Nottingham 7 years ago, I've been circling around yourself and Big White Shed, and I settled into DIY Poets. And little by little, I really sensed that we were kindred spirits and that it would be great to collaborate. And it has been, so thank you.
I mean, it was initially the poets that I was working with were people that I'd known for a good few years. So when people come who are not old friends, that's really exciting. That's like, and I think it is, I felt there was a kindred spirit thing going on. There was something you mentioned to me that you said, the biggest personal question you have that's like the focal point of the way you write, what your writing is and how you live your life is, what does it mean to encourage people to dare to care? And when I first heard it, I thought, he dares to care, but it's more than that. You want to encourage people to dare to care, and I feel that's a real Big White Shed thing. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
I certainly will. I mean, for me, dare to care is about emotional honesty. It's about writing from our feelings. It's not about meeting anybody's expectations. It's about being true to ourselves so that we can encourage other people to be true to themselves. It's the very opposite to what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now around the whole George Floyd thing.
So I wonder, actually, is it too early for you to share a poem with us?
Well, actually, I'd love to, Anne, because like so many people who try to live lovingly, I'm really horrified and pained by what's going on in the US right now. It agonizes me. And I found myself writing a poem this morning when I didn't expect to be doing anything except admin. So it's not in the book, it's literally hot off the presses, but I will share it. I can't breathe under this weight of hate. Can't break free where only white is right. Can't speak out where justice calls meet riot shield walls. Can't see how our one world split apart can heal till we let hearts feel the snarl and spit of history. Honestly, face our race history. Sit down together, hearts open, hearts strong. Listen hard together, listen long. Weep for the hurt we've done, still do. Tell the false leaders we see you. See how divided we stay weak, you stay strong. And that's not right, that's what's wrong. Stand up together now, hearts stout, hearts true. Shout out together now, that our day is come. They took your breath, but now we breathe as one. This land is our land. The fight back's just begun.
Wow, thank you. I didn't expect you to come with a new poem, but I think, I think if it comes upon you, you have to share it straight away. It's difficult to know what to think and what to say or what to do about it. And I guess that's the thing that struck me a lot with your your poems when I'd seen you perform some poetry, but when I had the manuscript in my hand and I was able to spend time on it, you're not afraid of sharing the thoughts that are in your head about difficult things and exploring them with us. Does that make sense? I feel that sometimes poems are like they're done and it's like, I've thought about this thing and this is the answer, here you go. But I got a great sense with a lot of yours that you were allowing us to work through these things with you.
I think that's spot on, and I think that is what I mean when I say encouraging us to dare to care. It's not shying away from the many emotional, political, social challenges that are there, but actually recognizing that we can empower ourselves, that we have got tools, and imagination is a great tool. I love the spoken word scene. I love the way that people are speaking into spaces and listening. There's a great quality of listening, and I think the more we can speak honestly, the more we can listen honestly, the better equipped we are to understand things more deeply and not be twisted and spun by politicians and media who are very skilled at that. But we can actually stay grounded, we can actually understand, and then we can decide what we're going to do about it. For me, writing poetry and speaking poetry is an act. I see myself as an activist. I think imagination, creativity have always been great ways of speaking truth to power, and also great grassroots voicing. And I see both of those streams in my own work and in that of the others poets that I love.
Yeah, and you have a very gentle manner about you, and a gentle way. So it was a surprise to feel the power. Not that I thought, oh, you have no power, but you present in a very gentle way, and then to read the poems which have this underlying power going through them. And I remember one of the things I enjoyed about working with you was you had a very clear vision from the start of how it was going to look, what it was going to feel like, what it was going to smell like, the paper. I remember you said to me, I want the same paper as Porridge magazine, and I had to quickly get online and order so that I could see. And I thought, okay, I get what he means. And then apart from the practical side, when we worked, because you had a great peer network of editors, didn't you, working with you? But then I remember the sort of the final editing that we were doing about the ordering and that kind of thing. There was one poem which I was like, what do you have to have this poem in for? And you were adamant that it should be there.
Yes, and that of course is the poem about climate change,
Yeah.
which is another challenge. It's almost too big. We can't get our hands around it. It's like the whole race history issue. But we don't have to get our hands all around it all at once. We just have to be willing to look a little bit longer, a little bit deeper into the truth. And then I think change follows from that. The great wisdom really isn't that we have to understand everything all at once, but simply keep our minds open. I really see that as part of where my writing helps people to open minds. Perhaps it's challenging for some people, and I really embrace that. And I like what you say, that perhaps I'm a bit of a stealth warrior. I don't always come across as writing strong political agit, but actually it is. It's got a real heart and a punch to it.
And I remember you saying about that poem, how can I write a book about love and not have that poem in it? And I thought, he's right. But it was from a sort of a shallow, let's put a book of poems together. And it's called Love's Burn, which again, I love the fact that it's not Love Burns, it's Love's Burn. So there's so many ways of reading it. And then to have a political poem in there seemed jarring. And you were right. You were right.
Yeah, I think it's something that's a little bit counterintuitive to folks, which is that when we live lovingly, or I try to live lovingly, actually that's a political act. The two are from the same root. They come from that same place of authenticity and speaking truth to myself as much as to anyone else. I wouldn't want it to come across that I somehow have understood everything and I'm speaking from a position of higher consciousness. You know, that's the last thing. I just know that I have a value when I speak truth to myself and share that with others.
So have you always been like this? Where did it come from? What's your journey been that's allowed you to gather this stealth warrior-ness along the way?
I think I've been a survivor. I had some pretty full-on experiences as a child. One of those being my dad becoming ill with cancer and then dying when I was 12. So I had to confront some pretty big personal stuff. But also, I think because I knew I was different, I would use the word queer now, from a very early age, I also had to handle some quite complicated stuff, which is a feeling of being an outsider, but also a desire to belong and how to do that. And sometimes stealth is actually quite a good way. And I found that I could hang out with older lads if I could make them laugh, if I could tell them stories. They wanted to have me around. If I just showed up and pretended to kick a ball around, you know, they turned their backs in horror at my feet. But if I made them laugh, or if I actually made them stop by saying something really unexpected, there was a little bit of a spark, a little bit of a sense of something possible. And that really has kind of been a deeper thing for me. I think my life's been a kind of opening around that. So after a while in a local government career that was gently turning my head to mushy peas, I got invited to act as a workplace facilitator, and I had low expectations. I thought it was going to be a bit of a gimmick, but actually it wasn't, because it was back to that stealth stuff. I realized that through that means, it was possible for ordinary workers to start to influence the organization. It was possible for truth to be spoken to power, and actually big changes came from that. So I think that kind of personal experience then sat alongside the desire to enjoy books and enjoy what the imagination is capable of. And I think I've always scribbled stuff, mostly kept it very secret out of embarrassment. But from time to time, I've kind of shared it and got good responses. So I suppose I've learned to be brave. I think that's possibly the other thing that we do, don't we? When we're creatives, there comes a point where we have to stop sharing our poetry or our art with the walls and actually go share it with another person. And that's an act of great courage. Mm-hmm. And then see what happens. Maybe, you know, maybe we'll learn something, maybe we won't.
And I think, I mean, for me with Big White Shed, that's one of the main drivers. Is I saw so many good writers, powerful writers, experimental writers, in, you know, not having a platform for their words to be read. So you'd see them at a spoken word evening and think, oh, how can I take that home and, you know, re-devour it and or relive it? And there was no book, there was no, and I understand that with mainstream publishing, you can't take a punt on everyone. So it mattered to me that those voices were shared. And it's quite exciting that I've had people who've sort of come at the start of their career and then have moved off to be published elsewhere. And yeah, it's always a great honor when someone trusts you with, you know, with their precious things, because once it is in a book, it's merch. It's like there is a letting go, I think. But that the process of putting it there is a difficult one. It is a brave act, I think. And every single author, every single one of you I've worked with, keeps editing, keeps editing, keeps editing. So to say, okay, I'll let that go, and maybe, I mean, I wonder, have you edited any of the poems in there since they've gone in there? Have they changed?
That's a really lovely question. Actually, no, except for one word in the poem Vows, which, for the benefit of anyone who's yet to buy the book, is the first poem, where I did change one word when I was performing it, and it stuck.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Because I feel they are living creatures, poems. They breathe and they change, and we deliver them in different ways dependent on who we're delivering them to. Have you got another? Sorry, I've cut you off there.
I was just going to agree wholeheartedly, because I think in times gone by, poetry was seen as quite a esoteric, solitary kind of experience. What I love is the way that it's become so social, and the way that we can feed off each other and inspire one another. And you've done fantastic things, first with Maudie Poets, a group of great talent, and Big White Shed. I remember my first time coming along to Debbie Bryan and munching some gorgeous cake and listening to one after another brilliant poet, all of whom seem to have this kind of family vibe with yourself, and feeling honored, actually, and really would like to put that out there, how much that means to me. And that was a big reason why I was drawn closer.
So can we hear another poem?
We can hear Vows, actually.
All prepared.
I have, strangely enough, look what I have here.
You've got.
As if by magic. Yes, I'd like to share Vows, which is the first poem in the book. The book kind of follows an arch form. It always did in my mind, but it took a while for that structure to settle. And Vows is kind of paralleled at the end of the book with a poem called Dare. And those two really mark the journey. So the vows is the intention, and Dare is the outcome. Vows. All you need is love. Isn't it that simple? Yet, isn't simplicity the labor of a lifetime, or longer? When the giant redwood looks down from the stars, does it marvel how far it has risen? Isn't love a daily, hourly determination to grow together? Does that mean letting go, shedding layers of a skin we weren't even aware we were wearing? Does that mean letting old tears flow, bringing us out of ourselves, leading others in? Opening hearts is nothing short of heroic till we wake to realize keeping them closed is no life at all. Love is the fire of life, and there's always a finger with a burn mark when you look closely. But we learn. Love is the fire of life, and isn't it natural that fire catches, spreads, rises? When we show our love proudly, don't lock it up behind rules. It's wild enough to set the world ablaze. Every stranger suddenly lit up, we see to be no stranger at all. For the fear that grows in the spaces between dies back like the weed it is as those spaces disappear. And we are love completely.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It does make me want to go and read the whole collection again, because they go from my mind and then that draws me straight back in again. Thank you so much for coming into my virtual shed and talking to me. I will explain to people how they can get their hands on your beautiful book. But yes, it's been lovely. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated.
You're very, very welcome, Anne. I would just like to do a call out to my lovely artist friend, Ivor Sexton, who gave me permission to use Fallen Angel, which is the title of this painting. And that was such a wonderful act of support and love that really has let this book fly. And I think the image is particularly powerful. People tell me that they find it draws them and they remember it.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much, Kevin. And I hope I'll see you around and about in the real world before too long.
You're very welcome, Anne, and I look forward to when we can actually go through a door and be closer than 2 meters from one another.
Exactly. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.